Hey everybody, and welcome to the Irish Golfer podcast, brought to you in association with Flowgas. Flowgas, of course, as we all know, sponsor every level of Irish golf, particularly Irish amateur golf. And I'm joined here today by one of Ireland's finest amateurs at the moment, Gavin Tiernan. Thanks very much for coming into our studio on this windy but quite sunny December afternoon here. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, good to be here. Have a nice little chat.
You're home for Christmas for a couple of weeks?
I am, yeah. Home for a couple of weeks. Nice to see all the family and get a bit of swing work done and get ready for the season ahead.
I was looking forward to this until you told me off air that you're a Leeds fan. Brought me right back down to earth.
Yeah. Marching on together.
How would you sum up the season? Because it's been a bit of a whirlwind, and I'd imagine that you haven't really got a chance to reflect on it until fairly recently because you've been so busy.
Yeah, it's only really been the past few weeks that I've actually sat down and, written down my reflections and thoughts over the season. And, I think if you told me at the start of the year that I'd be in Cyprus Point playing Walker Cup, I wouldn't say I wouldn't believe you, but I would have been probably in shock. So yeah, it was a great season for me. I really progressed how I was looking. My swing came on a long way. And yeah, no, I'm really, really happy with the season.
What would be the main takeaway from the season? Because so much happened.
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously a pinnacle of it is being in Cyprus Point playing Walker Cup. And I think having them experiences playing against the best players at the highest level, they're invaluable. I think you can go and hit balls in the range all day, all you want, but you're not going to get them experiences that, create the route, I would say, for your game and to progress. So, yeah, that obviously British Am was fantastic as well, and getting to represent Ireland, European teams, so many amazing experiences that are all just things you can learn from. So yeah.
And like Baltray gave you fantastic support all year, and in many ways your hectic sort of summer run started in Baltray at the East when you came third in front of, a packed home gallery and everything. How was that for you? Obviously, I know you might have been disappointed not to win, but that was the week that sort of just kicked you into gear, really.
Yeah, and seeing all the support there, obviously being there since I was a young kid, I think it really makes you remember how lucky you are to have all this. Like that was a key for me all throughout the year. Just remembering, having gratitude that I'm lucky to get to do what I do. It's some people, like I get to just play golf. There's a lot worse things I could be doing. So having the people there that I'm so lucky to have is fantastic. And yeah, the East obviously kick-started kind of the summer for me. I could see the trend over the spring semester in college. I was slowly but surely getting a lot better. The finishes were getting a lot better. So I knew it was a matter of time. And I stayed patient, and it obviously paid off.
Yeah, because I think you had a top 10 in East Tennessee, and like what do they do for you in terms of like does getting a top 10 in a college event carry more weight than maybe just say coming top 20 in a big amateur event? Does coming like competing against some of the top US collegiate players and seeing the actual result on paper, like, right, I was in amongst it, does that carry a certain weight for you mentally more than anything else?
Yeah, I think it helps you. Sometimes you put some of the top players, say, on a pedestal or whatever. You think this guy's, going to be an unbelievable ball striker because he's top 50 in the world or top 20 in the world. But when you actually play with them, you kind of realize you're a lot closer to them than you thought you were, which is just huge for your confidence. So if you can just clean up a few things here or there, that your game could be really good, because that's really what it is. Like, golf is just trying to save a shot here or there. Like, if you can hold that extra 6 footer, or that easy up and down, just getting that up and down an extra time. That's the difference between maybe finishing 40th in a big event and challenging to win.
Mm. And just going back to County Louth Golf Club, you've been a member there all your life. What age did you get into the game, and what's your earliest sort of golfing memory?
I was about 9 or 10 when I actually joined there. I'd be up there, messing around on the putting green and stuff when I was younger. But it was always my granddad who got me into the golf. He was a member there for years, and he lived like just down the road. So I used to go up with him. I remember he used to have these clubs like by his back door. That's kind of how I started getting into golf. Just like curious kid, like looking at them, picking them up, swinging them out the garden. I think he was just like, oh, he looks like he can swing it all right. Let's bring him up to the club. But yeah, he got me into it, and he was always one of my inspirations for it. He was an unbelievable putter, so I always think of him when I'm practicing my putting.
Is putting sort of your favorite thing? Is that a strength now because of that sort of memory?
It's probably something I actually need to practice a little bit more, but it definitely gives me a little bit of motivation to practice. But yeah, putting has gotten a lot better over the last year. So especially being in college, I think the way the green complexes and stuff are built over there, they're like the greens are a lot faster than they are here, and they're a lot more undulating. So you kind of just have to be a better putter. So yeah, definitely a part of my game that's improved.
Yeah. Like one of my mates is on a scholarship in America as well, and he came back after his first year and talking about grain on the greens. I was like, lad, we're in Ireland, we're playing on our members club. We don't get too much grain here. Like, was that something you had to adjust to as well, going over, being able to read greens and adjust to different grasses and how they'll interact with the ball? And certain greens might drag the ball somewhere, even though if it looks like it's breaking left to right, the grain is going to drag it the opposite direction. Is that something you had to adjust to?
Yeah, that was a huge learning experience for me. You know, where we play a decent bit of Bermuda greens, which are obviously extremely grainy. And it turns into like if you don't actually like strike your putt pure, the ball can just roll, like it can just jump off anywhere. You wouldn't know. So you have to really practice on getting your ball rolling like pure. And then when you come back here, like in the summer last year, like we played some pretty tricky greens before coming back, and then I got here and I felt like I was prime Spieth coming back on some of the greens, because you're used to obviously playing on very tricky greens, and then a lot of the greens here are kind of they're not easy obviously, but I would say just less complicated. There's less factors coming into play, so you have a little bit more control, and then that nearly gives you, because putting is such a game of confidence. So when you feel like you don't have to do as much to make putts, like that's so good for the mental side.
You touched on going to America and trying not to put these players that you're up against on a pedestal, and what that did for your game, both physically and mentally as well. Like that definitely had a huge impact, I'd imagine, going into the amateur championship as well, because you had to pre-qualify. I think you're probably the most famous player who has ever ranked 380 in the amateur rankings. I mean, every shot you hit on the TV, it was brought up for whatever reason. But like there is very minimal difference, because amateur golf is can be such an anomaly at times, and the 1,000 player in the world can beat the world number 10. Anything can happen. But you coming into that pre-qualifier, having played against such top quality players, were you very confident that you could get through that and get yourself into the main event?
Well, like for me, the way I've always thought about it is it's me versus the golf course. Like it doesn't matter like what he's doing, this guy or who's number 5 in the world, whatever, it doesn't matter, because he can't do anything about how I'm going to hit my golf ball. So I knew if I shot a score, I'd get through comfortably. So that was all I was trying to do really, and it obviously worked. And then even going into the tournament and into the match play, I always just think like I just play my own game, like just play golf and just see kind of where it takes you. I think especially in match play, people get playing the man way too much in match play, from what I see. And the way I've always taken it was literally just playing my own game. And there's something that can be intimidating about someone who just doesn't care what you're doing and just goes about their own thing. So that's what I've been always trying to do.
Like, you come through the stroke play then and get into the match play. So this has already been a great week, on paper, having come through the pre-qualifier. Then to beat Niall Shields Donegan in the first knockout match, like, that's a scalp, and it made a lot of people take notice. But also, like, your matches, I think all but two went to the 18th. So you were certainly bringing the thrills and spills for the week. Like, what was it like to be involved in so many tight matches? And, like, in a way, would you nearly rather that? Because I'd imagine the adrenaline is pumping after each win because it's, down the stretch so close all the time.
Yeah. I love going down the stretch. Like, that's what you live for. That's what you play the game. And that was actually probably the eye opener for me. It was like, I love that feeling of it being a good match or a tight game, rather than if winning 6-5 is great or whatever. But when you think about why you play the game, say you play it for how you're feeling when you're in that situation and you're feeling the most alive. And then obviously probably them first couple of games being tight definitely helped for some of the latter matches. And then when you go and birdie the last to win your match 1-up or something like that, like the amount of confidence that gives you, like, I was so nervous standing on that tee shot or in, say, my second shot into 18, whatever, like shaking, so nervous, and I still hit a good shot. And kind of separating just because I say felt nervous or felt excited or whatever, had a ton of adrenaline, that does not affect the outcome, is what I took from that. And even nearly being in tune with that, like, acknowledging, okay, I'm obviously very excited, my adrenaline's going, maybe nervous, whatever way you want to phrase it, and then bringing yourself back, like, knowing that doesn't affect it, then frees you up even more, which is definitely something I learned from them tight matches.
Yeah, you saying that, I always think back to what Martin Keimer said about his Medina putt in 2012. He said, I was nervous, but I was also thinking, I have such an opportunity to do something, so cool here. And you obviously had that in the final. But just before that, like, you touched on how going down the stretch in the matches helped you. You didn't lead your quarterfinal against Richard Tadair until the 18th. And I think that just speaks volumes for maybe that battle hardness that you had in the previous matches to stick in there and eventually, shake him off and get over the line, because it was quite a dramatic 18th hole as well.
Yeah, it's funny, like, you're down the whole match, but I never really thought I was ever losing that match, which is kind of how I always feel in match play. Like, I always think if I can just get to like 16, I'm gonna win the match. That's in my head, because I know so many people, like, especially in match play, if you just, again, playing your game, a lot of people tend to beat themselves in match play. Now, a lot don't. Obviously, just because I feel like if I get to the end doesn't mean I actually am going to win, but it gives you that nearly mental edge. And then when you're in that situation, you're calm and collected, and where someone else might be looking at you and thinking, oh, he looks so calm and cool, and then that just puts them under more pressure, and you're hitting solid shot after solid shot. Yeah, I think that's huge in match play coming down the stretch.
And then the final, how do you reflect on that? I imagine you're proud of, how far you went, but I'd also imagine there was, in the immediate aftermath, there was a gut-wrenching feeling of having come so close and, having lost. And again, dramatic circumstances. You've come back, you've birdied 16, 17. Ethan just produced the goods, Ethan Fang, on the last hole to kind of take it away from you. It must have been a whirlwind of emotions.
Yeah, it was a little bit of everything. Initially, obviously, you're gutted when you fight so hard, and then your mind obviously would tend to go to, one or two mistakes that you might have made coming in, and like, could have maybe done this different, but Yeah, no, obviously, obviously, if you look after it, you're obviously extremely happy. Like I didn't even get into the tournament, like I had to qualify, so you're obviously happy to have just made it to the final or make it to the match play at that stage. But uh, yeah, after I thought about it for a while, I was definitely nearly happier just with having that experience, like not the really the end result of say getting to the final or finishing second, more having again like them experience of winning your matches on 18 or 17 or whatever. um I think they're more valuable than the actual outcome, say.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you say like you produce the goods on 16, 17, and then in fairness to Ethan Fang, he hits a brilliant shot in the 18.
Yeah.
There's not much you can do about that. Whereas half an hour before that, you've shown, the bit of guts and I suppose the balls really to not put the head down. Because I'd imagine at that stage, especially with it being a 36-hole final, the tiredness does creep in. And, there were lulls in the match where the standard of golf wasn't very good and you're sort of fighting with your swing and you're trying to G yourself up again. But you must be proud of how you're able to stick in against somebody of that quality as well.
Yeah, well, I was like my caddy John from the golf club. He was unreal, but I think I said to him on maybe 16T, I was like, well, if I'm gonna do something, I better do it now. And then I knocked in obviously a pretty long putt on 16, and then able to make birdie on 17. But um, I, I I didn't really change. What I was really most happy with was I didn't really change my approach in terms of when I got into 16 set, like 16 being two down or whatever. I didn't really change anything I did. I just tried to hit a good tee shot, and then on the putt, I just tried to hit a good putt, and I happened to hit a really good putt at the right time. Same on 17. So I didn't really change what I did, which I think is very important. Um, people, you know, people tend to try too hard most of the time in them situations where the key for a lot of top players is getting out of your own way and like letting a good shot happen by just doing your process, which is what I did, which is what I was probably the most proud of.
Were you thinking of I suppose, the major rewards that come with winning an amateur, or were you actually thinking of, well, I actually want to win the amateur championship here first, stuff what, comes in the future? Because I think as in the media, we can be guilty of thinking, all right, yeah, he's the chance to win this, but look what he could get. Whereas are you solely focusing on the tournament in itself?
Yeah, it's funny. It rarely actually came into my head. Like I thought it was going to, but I didn't try to avoid it. Like if I was trying to not think about it, I'd probably end up thinking about it. Where I was like here or there, it would pop in, but I'd just be like, well, yeah, like I know. There's no point trying to avoid it. I know this is the opportunity if I win, and then I'd be like, okay, well then, how do I do that? Like I do that by being in my process and trying to hit good shot, and then walking up to the next one and trying to hit that one good, and trying to take it one shot at a time, like the cliches. But yeah, I obviously it comes into your head a little bit, but when you're in that zone of being so in your process, it's nearly like you don't have time to think about anything else, um, which is a nice feeling.
Yeah. It was great TV because you obviously turned one up after the first 18, and then for a 36 holer to go down to the last hole, like, it doesn't happen too often. But also from a visual point of view, there was plenty of red dotted around St. George's uh, that weekend anyway. It must have been brilliant to see so many people come over from the golf club to support you, especially last minute flights aren't cheap.
Yeah, to be honest, that was what made the week really. Like we that evening after some amazing memories. We didn't have accommodation. Well, we thought we did, but I think my uncle or something, or maybe it was my dad, booked the place for the wrong day. So they went to the accommodation, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we've booked for today," and they were like, "No, you've booked for tomorrow night." And they came back. We were like, "We have nowhere to stay." So these amazing members ended up putting us up on the one of their houses was actually at the back of the fourth green. Um, Actually was a Curtis Cup player. It was mad coincidence, but and then we all we all went there for some food after, and There's a big picture of us, like 20 of us there around the table. It was that's the important stuff, you know what I mean? Like the golf is amazing, but I was sitting there like, how lucky am I, like having all my family, and that was what made it for me.
Yeah, and of course the doors that week opened as well. You went to play for Ireland, the European teams, the St Andrews Trophy, the home internationals, and of course the Walker Cup. But like going in then to the Ireland setup for the European team championships in Killarney, making your debut, like what was that like, especially to be around some of the legends of the amateur game here, like Stewie Grehan, Matt McLean, Keelan Rafferty, like, and just a stunning setting that Killarney is. I mean, just talk about that experience from your point of view, and just how much did you enjoy that?
Yeah, that was a fantastic week. It's always nice to try and learn from, guys' experiences. Them, even like John and Thomas, like we all bring something to the table that maybe maybe Raf or maybe Stu can pick up something from me, and then maybe like obviously I can pick up stuff from them. They've have a lot of experience, but even like John, like I see John and I play with him, and there's stuff I learned from him. You know what I mean? I don't think there's a, obviously the experience helps in terms of learning from them, but I think we all had a great group because we were all open to learning from each other. Um, and obviously having it in Ireland is just different. You can feel the support when everyone came out during the rounds. It was amazing, and then like what a location! Like I think that's it's probably one of the most spectacular places I've been in the world. To be honest, I absolutely love that place. Um, and yeah, just I think it was an unbelievable experience. Obviously, it came down to the wire in the semis, and I think if that, who knows if that one match just goes another way, maybe we would have had the trophy in our hands, but we gave it our all. And I think that's all you can really do.
Yeah, like it's funny. It does mean more, especially when you're playing well, but it also probably means more as well when it doesn't go away, like the semi final. Like I remember talking to Stewie afterwards, and he was devastated. And you're thinking, right, yeah, like it really, really does mean more when you're playing on home soil, playing for your country and everything.
Yeah, like wearing that green jersey, it's so different. Like it's everything that you kind of dream of when you're younger and representing your country, especially for me, especially when I moved away, was more that I was like just love being Irish and like being able to represent your country like that. Like it's such an honor and a privilege.
It was a brilliant team, and I think the atmosphere in that team was class as well, because you said there yourself, there was I suppose the golden oldies and then the three youngsters. Like there was such a great blend, and it's probably one of the great things about amateur golf is that it doesn't matter how old you are. It's about if you're good enough to play, and from both sides as well, whether you're in your 30s or in your teens or early 20s as well, everybody can play on a team. And I really do think the blend that week was something unique, and it was such a shame that you just couldn't go all the way, because the old lads were really pulling you on, and you were nearly making the older lads feel a bit younger as well. That was a real trend of the week as well.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we really got each other going, and I think obviously us as the young lads, we were, we love getting hyped up, getting excited, and they're obviously, especially like Raf and Stu, fairly, trying to keep it level and stuff. So it was a nice blend, nice balance, but yeah, it was, it really could have been. It was a great week in general, but um, it's golf at the end of the day. There's so much outside of your control in golf, and I felt like we did the controllables very well, and I think maybe we just didn't get a couple of the breaks in that semi final, and sure, that's just how it goes sometimes.
Hmm. At what point then are you thinking that the Walker Cup could be on the radar? Because obviously the future call-ups come up from that, like the St Andrews Trophy and home internationals. Like when did you start putting it in sort of maybe in the back of your mind that I'm being looked at here, or I've an outside chance of getting on this team?
Yeah, well, I think definitely when I got picked for St Andrews Trophy, um, I definitely thought I was in the conversation because obviously we beat Continental Europe quite well at St Andrew's Trophy, and the the team atmosphere we had, and the atmosphere that Dean, our captain, created was unbelievable. Like it was like we had known each other for years and years, even though I had just met pretty much every single one of them, um, which was really really cool. And I think obviously Dean seen that and he liked that atmosphere. So yeah, definitely after St Andrew's Trophy, I thought I was on the radar, and then there wasn't too many tournaments after that. But obviously home internationals, I felt like I had a decent enough stint at homes, which I thought was kind of I'd say that was the bit that got me, just onto the team, I'd say.
Mm. And like it was an amazing achievement for the club as well to be there with Stewie. Like it's not often you get two players from the same club playing on a Walker Cup team. I can't really remember if that's ever happened. Well, maybe McIlroy back in the day or something. But no, to have two Baltray members was unbelievable going over.
Yeah, well, we even say that, or I say that to my mum and dad. Like, how mental is that? Like, two from the same club. Like, the odds of that happening. But, yeah, and then it was great. We had obviously my parents and Stu's wife Carla and their family, and some people from Baltray and stuff came over, which was so cool. You could see the red jumpers even at the opening ceremony. I was looking up and I could just see the little blob of red in the crowd, which was really really cool. But yeah, just definitely an experience, just unbelievable experience. Yeah,
Because so much of the Walker Cup is about what actually happens before, like that opening ceremony, hearing the anthem, seeing the flag go up on the pole. Like that's just goosebump stuff, really.
yeah. I was lucky enough to be able to raise the Irish flag in the opening ceremony, and when you're raising that with the anthem going up, like you could feel the tears coming on nearly, like it was it's like a moment out of a movie nearly. Um, just so special.
And you like GB and I they were written off as probably always are going over to America, especially. And going into those singles, I think there was only a point in it at the time, and this is it's up for grabs, and we know that the Americans are always very strong in singles, and the result and the way it panned out was obviously very disappointing. But for you to have come away with a point, at least, I know you're the only one who got the point on the final day singles, but to at least have put something on the record for yourself, is there a sense of justification there as well?
Yeah, that was nice for me personally, just to like prove a point nearly, just like I feel like I'm one of the best players in the world, and I can prove it here by beating one of the best players in the world. But I don't think like the final score didn't really represent how that, even how the day was going. Like for a lot of the time, them first like 4 or 5 games were one down, all square. Two, you know what I mean? It was tight. Like if they swing around, you know what I mean? Then
We're having a different conversation
here. You
here.
know what I mean? Like it was just a shame that they kind of all seemed to go America's way, which was tough for us. But we that the true belief that we had in that group was, we really really believed that we were winning, which was just a testament to the atmosphere that Dean created. But yeah, again, like I was playing my match, I was kind of keeping an eye, like just you see the scoreboards or whatever. I seen the first few matches were kind of all square, maybe one down, but you're still kind of like, they can switch that around, and then I'm gonna take care of my match. So I know, if they can switch that around, it's coming down to us. And obviously, unfortunately, it didn't go that way. But it was great to have that whole environment of true belief.
And I'd imagine as well, nice to come back in that fashion for yourself personally after, I suppose, getting a bit of a hiding of Stuart Hagestad the first day. But like that was the environment that you were stepping into, to be against somebody like him, and like what a demon he is at amateur level. I mean, he has life sorted. I mean, just play mid-ams, do a few jobs on the side, and play Walker Cup every other year. I mean, but that was I'd imagine that was an experience that you took a lot from, because you do learn a lot from when you lose. And to have been up against somebody of that stature as well, I'd imagine you take a lot from that.
Well, yeah, like, you know, obviously you learn a bit from when you do well, but you know, you learn way more about when it doesn't go how you want it to. So, again, I was able to take what I learned from that match and bring it into the second match. Like I knew, obviously you're unhappy with your performance or whatever, but I knew that I could either just be annoyed at it and give out to myself or whatever, or I could actually analyze it. What did I do wrong? What can I do better for tomorrow? Which is what I decided to do, luckily. And then I was able to apply it, which was great.
The mental game is big for you, not just by talking to you here now, but from hearing other interviews or other podcasts. You do rely a lot on that, and is that nearly where you base your game or where you're going forward with that?
Well, I like to make that a lot of my focus because it gets it away from the outcome. All of the mental stuff that I seem to talk a lot about is all process orientated. So, you know, one of my goals over the latter stages of this season and going into next season is kind of chasing a feeling. Like, how do I want to feel on the course? You know, I want to feel calm, I want to feel collected, blue head, rather than I want to have this many putts or I want to hit this many fairways, stuff like that. Which that stuff, you know, you can't, like, as much as you can control it to a certain extent, you can't really the actual outcome of it because it could get a bad bounce or who knows, all sorts could happen. So stuff like that, I can really, like, I can actually control. And then when you do it, it gives yourself more confidence because you're like, I controlled exactly what I can control, and that's all I'm trying to do.
Yeah, you're sort of just taking away the pressure as well of, if I get a bad bounce off this golf shot, well, I did everything that I could. Like, it's a thing that Harrington says, there's no point complaining if, you know, you've hit the ball in the bunker or hit the ball behind a tree. It's like no one else's fault but stuff. You hit it there.
Yeah.
But as long as you stick to your process, the next shot will be a good one.
Yeah, and I think it's always important, like, to tell yourself, like you didn't try to hit it in the bunker. like you're trying to hit a good shot. Like, why would you, if you were caddying for yourself, you would never, if you were caddying for somebody else, say,
you're never going to give out to
the
them.
bunker, you're not going to be like, what are you doing hit it in the bunker? Like, obviously you're not going to say that. So that's always a good analogy I've used. Like, because you're your own caddy, obviously, if you don't have a caddy. So you should, you know, speak to yourself like you're giving somebody advice, like you're caddying for them, which I think is important, and trying to switch on that conscious mind as quick as you can, because when you feel angry, it's not really what you're thinking, it's just a reaction to the outcome of the shot. Where when you switch that conscious mind on to, okay, what am I actually thinking about, or what should I be thinking about, I think is key.
Just going back to Walker Cup in Cypress Point, I know Ian Poulter was a massive cheerleader that week for GB&I, and like arguably the greatest match player we've ever seen. Did he come into the team room at all, or did he speak anything, or did you have much of sort of an interaction with him during the week?
We chatted to him a little bit. Obviously, you know, because Luke was playing, his son. He actually came up to me after the first day after I lost his shoe. Just chatted to him for a while, and it's pretty surreal. Nearly, you're like, this is a guy who he's nearly the most famous Ryder Cup player of all time, really. Mr. Ryder Cup, the postman, you know, and hearing some of the stories, and, you know, after losing the first day, the stuff like, you know, just taking what you can from it and going out and trying to do a job tomorrow was just really, you know, it nearly hits a little harder when it's coming from someone who has that experience. And then, yeah, he was, you know, hearing like a team talk from him it's so inspirational, you know. He's obviously played at the pinnacle of golf. Someone having that experience, and he has a way of getting a team pumped up.
I imagine so. Would he make a good Ryder Cup captain?
I think he would, but who knows?
God knows.
Yeah, with the live stuff. But I think he'd be I feel like one thing he did mention about some of the Ryder Cups, you know, some guys might have hated each other. Like, hated is a strong word. Might have
Just
disliked
not
each
got
other.
on, yeah.
But once they get into that team room, everything is left outside their one unit, which is what we talked about with Dean and stuff as well. Um, yeah, so that was obviously another element of our, um, you know, being such a cohesive group. And then obviously that goes up to the top level, like the Ryder Cup, like what Ian was saying.
Mm. Yeah, because as I mentioned earlier, GB and I were sort of really were written off, but you've shown the value of what having a good dressing room is like. And, you know, Poulter, his speeches, the way it inspired you, the camaraderie that Dean built, like you can nearly, not saying it saves a shot, but you'll end up playing shots that you probably wouldn't normally play in a stroke play event. And again, it's going on that line of it means so much more because you're playing for your teammates.
Yeah.
You don't want to let the, you know, guy behind you or the guy in front of you down. And I think that's something that is unique to GB&I and then Europe as well in the professional ranks. That sort of camaraderie that we do get in a dressing room, whereas we might be overlooked from the outside looking in, but in those four walls in the dressing room, there's something different going on.
Well, if you look at the foursomes scoring, I think GB and I are just slightly ahead in the foursomes, but I think that's because of that reason. Like we're family nearly is what it feels like, you know, like they're your brothers, like you're in there fighting for one another. Where I think the American teams historically have always been like a group of individuals, which is why probably they excel in the singles. And you know, GB and I or Europe might excel in the foursomes, but yeah, you can definitely see the evidence of having a strong team environment in the results.
And with the Walker Cup being not whenever this podcast goes out, either next year or this year, if we put this out in early 26, Lahinch, like, and with it being a year in between, that gives an opportunity actually for not too much of a turnover in terms of player selection if everyone continues to play as well as they are, and like that can help a team almost as well, that continuity as well.
Yeah, it's like you know, the guys know each other already, and again, it just makes the bond stronger. But I haven't really been thinking too much about Walker Cup. I think I always think about it as I'm trying to play on tour or whatever. All of this stuff, it's obviously huge dreams and goals that you have, and you know you want to play it so badly, but playing it or not playing it, I'm just focusing on like my progression as a player. So every day I'm just trying to get a little bit better, and that stuff kind of takes care of itself.
So away from, I suppose, playing Walker Cup, if you could think of, like, the south of Ireland's going to be box office. A lot of the Irish championships now will be really, really good this year, but particularly the south, like a strong Walker Cup panel will be in that field, whoever's on it. But I'd imagine a lot of Irish players are going to be chomping at the bit to try and make that team because Walker Cups in Ireland don't come along very often. Like, can you imagine the scenes in Lahinch anyway, whether you're playing or not, just like the absolute mayhem that could be there next September?
Yeah, well, I can imagine. I think I heard it's like 30,000 tickets or something like that, which is absolutely mental because in Cyprus it was like 4.5 or something like that, and it felt like there was a lot of people. So I can imagine the absolute carnage it would be. Even at Palmer Cup, there was quite a big turnout. Yeah, the atmosphere would be unbelievable, especially the Irish fans. The Irish fans are different. Obviously, when you have Irish players playing, it'll just be mental. And I think that would be a huge key for GB&I's team at the time, like really having the crowd. Because even you could feel it in Cyprus, like there wasn't as many as if it was in a different venue, but you could still feel the crowds are all going for them because it's mostly just Americans. So having that huge amount of people cheering for you, like that can only be a huge benefit for the GB&I team.
Yeah, like I covered the Palmer Cup when it was in Lahinch a couple of years ago, and funnily enough, I keep forgetting that it's on in Tralee next year too. It's just sort of gone under the radar because there's so much going on. And like, I'm sure you'll obviously be a contender for the international Palmer Cup team as well, given how well you're doing in college. And just on that, you're in East Tennessee State University, halfway through your second year. What impact has going to college in the States and on the scholarship, what has it had on your game, not both physically and mentally as well? Because it really has laid the foundations for, the brilliant summer that you had.
Yeah, it's been a huge key for me. When you're over there, you're basically in a professional environment. The schedule is so rigid, as in, like scheduled. You're kind of doing the same thing over and over, which is for golf is really important because you have to develop that consistency. So yeah, having that schedule has been so important for me, and then obviously the experiences of playing against and with some of the best players, giving yourself that confidence that you're not as far away as you think. And then also maybe giving you a bit of a smack as well, like this needs to be better or this needs to be better. Like for example, putting, like, if you want to get to the next level, get on to the PJ Tour, you just have to be a good putter. Like being a good putter is like the bare minimum. So you can't really get away with being a poor putter, because you could, like in college or tournaments over here, a lot of people like, I hit it lovely, didn't put great shot, even par. Like that's not going to get you anywhere in the tour. So learning things like that, and really learning from like our coach Aaron, he's seen a lot, and he's seen where some of the best players excel and maybe what limits them, and then he's seen that, and he was in Wake Forest, Cameron Young, Will Zalatoris.
Yeah, Mark Power, Lauren Walsh as well.
Yeah, exactly. Mark and Lauren, exactly. Yeah, he's seen them players, so he knows what excellence is and what it looks like. And then he can obviously teach that to us, which is what we're trying to do.
And of course, David Ruddy is with you as well, and you've made great strides together. I'd imagine you're fairly in debt of what he's done for your game as well.
Yeah, I've been working with Dave the last while. He's great. He just loves golf, that fella. But yeah, he's amazing. Like he's always there if I ever need to chat or something that I'm struggling with, or he's never not there, which I'm extremely grateful for. And yeah, been, hopefully get my swing ready now for the next season ahead.
How did you feel when you were going over to East Tennessee? Because, young guy, had just played his first, I suppose, senior, championship season in Ireland. Like there's a lot that goes with going over, change of scenery, different country, being on your own a lot, I'd imagine. But like in terms of just settling in and putting all that in the back of your mind and trying to get on with, playing golf, how did you find that transition?
I didn't really mind it too much. Like I've always loved to travel and see new places. And the way I was raised, I was always quite, even from a young age, able to do things on my own and stuff, which was, I'm just lucky to have two amazing parents who brought me up that way. So yeah, that issue wasn't really a problem for me. Obviously, when you're away, you there's blips. Sometimes you miss home and stuff like that, but that's all a part of it. That's all usually temporary. But yeah, that stuff didn't seem to bother me too much. But I was, you anticipate it, because when I committed probably a year and a half ish before I went over, and you're anticipating it. You're like, I can't wait to get over. So that first while is such a buzz. Still, you're on a high. So, which I am still now, because I'm so lucky to have what we have. Like, sometimes when I come home, when you have that every day, you kind of take it for granted sometimes, and then you come home, and you're kind of like, well, I'm like, to have them facilities of, pure greens, provies in the range, TrackMan, GC Quad, anything we need, we have. Just makes you realize how lucky I am to be able to have that. And then I think coming home like at Christmas is great, because it kind of resets you, and you're like, having that over there, like, I really need to make the most of that when I have it. Having access to all them things.
Yeah, because nothing brings it back down to earth like left, right, crosswind, wet mats,
exactly, yeah.
Range balls, and a wet club face.
Yeah, and to be fair, I actually think there's an element of that as well. Like, not having the best facilities and just making do with what you have. I think that's a huge part of just learning to become a golfer as well, because sometimes you're on the course and you're going to feel terrible, and it might be raining, might be windy, and it's just you have to have that as well if you're, I guess, if you're playing it perfect all the time, because you get to and then you get on a course and you have a side hill lie out of the rough and it's wet and it's windy, because obviously you rarely ever get the same shot twice in golf, so there's an element of that as well, but I think more the gratitude aspect of it, just remembering how lucky I am to be able to have them facilities and practice in such an amazing environment.
Yeah. What's the dynamic then between yourself, David, Aaron, and Neil Manship in terms of like who is your main coach? Like when you get a lesson off David, like is there much of a crossover then between Aaron and Neil, or is there a link in terms like so no one's sort of not overlapping, but you're not hearing different things from the three coaches? Is there a danger? Do you have to be careful of that in any way?
Well, I just always make sure I'm communicating with everyone. When if I'm working on something with David, I'll always let Aaron know, make sure he's not in the dark, obviously. Same way the other way around. Like we do a little bit of swing work, Aaron, here or there, but it's usually a lot of he's kind of there to help you if you need the help. But like if I'm on the straight and narrow and I'm doing what I should be, and the swing I'm dialed in on what I'm working on and stuff like that, he kind of just oversee it and do a lot of performance work. He might be like, okay, these are some drills for putting. Might do a par 18 with the team, stuff like that. Which is good, because then you have the balance. You have like, where with Dave, I'm a lot of time just focusing on, say, swing work, technique, and then with our coach Aaron, it's a lot of performance work. So you have that balance, which is always great.
Yeah, well, I say by the time this podcast goes out, you could be back there for your second semester of your second year, and like, what have you got to look forward to golf wise with the college?
So we're first event, we're off to Briars Creek, which is in Charleston, hosted by University of Charleston, which is always a good event. Played there last year. Really nice golf course. It's nice. It's Bermuda greens, but they're dormant, so it's actually like glass. It's actually really, really nice to put on. So we're kind of based around South Carolina a lot of the time, but we do have a tournament out in San Diego as well, which should be good fun. That'll be a really good field. But I also I'm going to play Jones Cup in Sea Island in Georgia when I head back, which will be a really good one, really strong event. I think Stuart Graham might be coming over to play that as well, so that should be a great event. Really looking forward to that, and yeah, I'm already, haven't had that long off tournaments, but I'm already buzzing to get back going again.
Like, do you like having all the time off, or would you rather, because your summer was hectic, do you enjoy that? You're just on all the time.
It's nice when you're playing well, but it's also nice. Like, again, I think I said it a minute ago. Like the break kind of resets your mind to have that, because sometimes when you're doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, like, it's human nature to obviously get a bit, like, I wouldn't say bored, but you're kind of like, damn, I wouldn't mind a break or something different. Where you come home and you have a little bit of time. Then I'm already raring to go already. I've only been home a week and a half, like 2 weeks. So I know by the time I'm heading back over, I'm going to be like really like driven and ready to go. Because you need that. I think for me and for most people, you need that bit of balance as well. I think if you're doing the same thing like all the time, I think you'll just drive yourself mad. You'll probably end up hating the game. So yeah.
You're just from speaking to you, you're very driven to improve on what you did in 2025, and even then, like, the margins to actually improve on that are so small as well. But you're very determined to find them, whether it's improving your mental approach or finding that extra percentage, maybe on the greens or off the tee or whatever it is. You're very determined to keep on top of things and keep climbing up the ranks.
Yeah, well, you're trying to, like, I know, like, I played quite well in the summer this year, but I can pick out times, say, in our spring semester in college where my ball striking was exactly how I wanted to be, and then maybe my putting let me down or something else. So I know my peak is a lot higher than what I've shown in the summer, even though obviously I've played very well. But having that's what drives you. Like even at British Am or in some of the tournaments in college, there's always stuff you can nitpick to, if I can clean that up a little bit here or there. Because like that could be like if you're playing well, say, and your scoring average is like, I don't know, 71.5 or 72. If you save a shot around or another shot and a half around, you're on the PJ Tour, So like that's how small the margins are. So again, that endless journey of trying to get just a little bit better. If you're saving 0.1 of a shot this month and then it turns into 0.2, it's the marginal gains, that 1% better every day. I have a tattoo on my wrist, Kaizen, which is all about that, just getting a little bit better every day. And I think that's so important in golf, because that's when you get to the highest level, it's all such small margins.
I think that's a good place to leave it. Don't think we can get more insightful than that. Yeah. It's been a real mental lesson, this podcast. But Gavin, thanks so much for coming in, taking time out of your schedule to join us today, and honestly wish you all the best going into the new year and going into next season as well. And hopefully, you don't want to say it, but hopefully I'll see you in Lahinch next year as well.
Yeah, touch wood. Hopefully the get some good finishes under my belt, and it'll be great to see you in Lahinch.
Cool. Well, all the best.
All right, thanks, Ronan.